Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. Getting into some bite down boxing. I've been real bad with my end of the year awards. I'm really not even going to do a full set of them. I got to set up a better process next year to make this easier so I don't have to scramble at the end of the year to bring a whole bunch of stuff together. Now, in my defense, if I could put this out there, I probably write up 70, maybe 80 fights a year. It's all on bitedownboxing.com. Some of it is on roundbyroundboxing.com. Like, I watch a lot of fights, write a lot of fights up. They start to run together. And I need to find a way to make a running list and highlight stuff that stands out. And then maybe even monthly, maybe even quarterly, go back and, eliminate what, the top stuff from that. So even with my music, I talk about a lot of music. I listen to a whole lot of music. And then I get at the end of the year, it is hard to bring all of that together and say, what's my best verse? What's my best producer? Well, it's difficult. So I apologize. Before I get into my dark horse knockout of the year or my forgotten knockout of the year, and then my real knockout of the year, I gotta get into my issue with Gervonta Davis, the left uppercut that knocked out Leo Santa Cruz. I see a lot of people running with that as their knockout of the year. It's an article up on Ring Magazine about why that was such a fantastic knockout and why it was this person's knockout of the year. I really don't dispute that. If that's what your knockout of the year is, fine. The only thing for me, and we get a lot of this in boxing right now, we get force-fed a lot of fights and a lot of fighters, and we're told why they're great, how they're great, and they really haven't done anything to be great. These really aren't fights that we really want to see, but we're giving them, and then we're just told to deal with it, live with it, and then tell us that it was great. Here with Gervonta Davis, it ended up being a phenomenal fight from what I understand. I still haven't watched it. I've seen the highlight. I see that that Leo Santa Cruz showed up and tried to have a good showing for his name. I mean, this man's a 4-division champion and whatnot. He was supposed to do something, but if we're keeping it a buck, we all know that is exactly the outcome of what I envisioned that outcome being when they announced that fight. That's why I did not purchase that fight. I will say that Leo Santa Cruz came out. He said all the right things. I salute that man for taking the challenge. But we know what Leo Santa Cruz's limitations are. I've seen the man fight way too many times, and it's just 10 and 12 rounds of him throwing a million punches and nobody gets hurt, or they get rocked a couple of times or whatever. But to put him in here with him going up, with Gervonta Davis going down, with Gervonta Davis being everything that we believe him to be offensively and power-wise, and everything that Gervonta Davis's track record is, his knockout ratio speaks volumes. And then because we get here and it is somewhat of an interesting fight, it is some good back and forth, and then there's this climactic ending that they knew that's why they picked him. In all likelihood, that was the outcome. That's what the fight was that's how it was always gonna end. And then us dumb boxing fans and us dumb boxing media, we sit here and say, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? And it's like, bruh, how am I supposed to get excited about that? I thought Shakur Stevenson spoke on it very well. Even if you want to call Gary Russell Jr. a hater, he told you. You were supposed to do that. You were supposed to do that. Last point on it, maybe the fight was so much of a back and forth because Gervonta Davis accepted it being a back and forth fight because he knew Santa Cruz was no threat. So I'm going to leave myself exposed. I'm going to engage. It's going to be exciting because I know I can't be hurt. I know I can't lose. And I'm going to walk through whatever he gives me because I'm going to deliver this one uppercut to him to get him out of here. And he did that. So, I mean, it's not easy to do. Not everybody could do it. Not everybody could get that same result. But it just can't be my knockout of the year. My forgotten knockout of the year. Give me a second to set the table. But it is Joe George's 7th or 9th round knockout of Marcos Escudero. It happened on Showtime. It was Showtime. And this is me setting the table. This is why it was a dark horse. And this is why it stood out for me. We had already had boxing back on ESPN since June, the first week of June. There had been some knockouts in the bubble, Top Rank, and on ESPN. There had been some knockouts. We didn't know who else was even going to hold fights for the rest of the year. What was going to happen with the sport for the rest of the year? What is going to be the level of excitement with these studio fights? What's going to happen? What kind of matchups are going to happen? What's going to happen to make us interested in this? What is going to give us real reason to tune in? So then Showtime re-enters the fold. They come out and announce their schedule for the last 6 months of the year to mixed reviews. They did have the 3 big pay-per-views with the Charlos, Davis and Santa Cruz, and then Spence and Danny Garcia. But their first fight is the Angelo Leo and Stephen Fulton fight for the vacant WBO super bantamweight title. Okay, great. We get to fight week and Stephen Fulton comes up with COVID. Damn. That was already a so-so fight. Now it's not even the so-so fight that we thought we were getting. They bump up the one dude, Tremaine Williams, I think was his name. They bump him up to the main event against Leo. Okay. So we tune in trying to see what's going to happen. The very first fight on that card is Joe George. I don't know if super middleweight, or was it? I don't know if it was at middleweight or super middleweight. Maybe it was at middleweight. But this is a rematch from the previous year that was on Showbox. Marcos Escudero was the favorite. None of us really knew who Joe George was unless you're in Texas. Joe George wins the Showbox fight, and Escudero is like, that's bull. We need to run it back. So they come and bring this back, and that's the first fight of Showtime's schedule in the pandemic / COVID-19 situation. So we're all sitting here like, well, what can Showtime's bubble, what is it going to be about? They're on the opposite side of the country. Top Rank was in Las Vegas. Showtime has set up shop in Uncasville. They're at the Mohegan Sun. And for me, Showtime, boxing is better if Showtime is involved. It just is. Boxing is better to me if all of these people are involved, whether it's Top Rank, ESPN, whether it's ESPN Plus, whether it's DAZN, whether it's Fight Pass, whether it's Fight TV, whether all of these people, NBC Sports, boxing is better if all of them are in place. But again, I'm like, okay, so what is Showtime boxing going to be about? What is it going to look like for 2020? We get into this rematch. It's a decent fight, but Joe George is kind of doing the same thing that he did in the first fight when he won the controversial decision. And Escudero is starting to try to open up because he's trying to make sure the same thing doesn't happen with the decision. George is kind of comfortable, but we're still wanting him to do something and to make the outcome decisive. And then we want Showtime boxing to be dope and exciting. And then all of a sudden, Joe George connects with this. I want to say it was a left uppercut. and I damn near jump out my seat. Ranello, I think it was Ranello that was on the call. Moro Ranello was on the call, the regular Showtime guys, and we get some excitement, and it's something big, it's something devastating, it's something, Escudero is KTFO, he's knocked the hell out. And it was like, to me, it was a big sense of relief that these guys are going to be able to come in here and perform and to do explosive stuff and to be dynamic. And one way or another, boxing is going to be what boxing usually is. It's going to deliver. And so that's why, for me, this is, and I know this might be some romantic shit that a lot of y'all don't care about. You don't know who Joe George is. You don't know who Marcos Escudero is. That's fine. But that's why that's my forgotten knockout of the year, because it signaled that boxing was on its way back for us diehard boxing fans. Also, we get a pretty good fight from Rais Salim in the co-main event, and in the main event, Angelo Leo, it has a great outing against Tremaine Williams. So that's why that's that for me. Getting into my knockout of the year, it might even be by default, to be honest with you. I could go back and try to think about some other ones. I mean, the Zepeda and Baranchik knockout was phenomenal. The aforementioned Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz knockout was stunning. It was scintillating. All of that Dickie V stuff, I get it. I guess, but for me, I guess I'd have to go with Povetkin and White. It was dramatic fashion. Povetkin had been down twice. He's probably facing retirement, much like Kovalev against Anthony Yard. It's early in the fight. Like I said, it's in the 4th round, I believe. He'd been down twice. The referee is talking about stop it. The corner is considering stop it. And then he goes out there, and again, this left uppercut, much like Joe George's punch, knocks Dillian White damn near up into the matchroom mansion, the matchroom boxing mansion. This was at fight camp. And there are some huge implications with that knockout. As like I said, Povetkin doesn't have to retire or accept another meaningless fight if he wants to fight on. But this knocks Dillian White, who's been the mandatory or the #1 WBC heavyweight challenger for like 2 decades, it knocks him out of that position and creates some flexibility in what could happen with the WBC heavyweight picture or title. And it just kind of reverberated, with what it did in the division and how it kind of reshaped things. And I thought it was a hell of a knockout. Again, with Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, like, okay, you knocked out a guy you were supposed to knock out, the way you were supposed to knock him out. And what's next? What is this connected to? What does this fit to? Where does this fit? How does this change anything? It was just a beautiful left uppercut by a much more talented guy than the guy that got knocked out. Like I said, with these fights that aren't 50-50, they aren't 60-40, a lot of them aren't even 70-30. And then we're just supposed to sit here and get all excited about this stuff and tune in and write up, 70, 80 fights a year, and it's no payoff to you as a fan, conversely. Because I'm not trying to knock the PBC. I'm not trying to knock Mayweather Promotions. I'm not trying to knock American fighters. I'm not trying to discredit or marginalize black fighters. But even if you look at a situation with Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, that was on ESPN Plus, I believe. UK heavyweights. We didn't know who was going to win that fight. When they announced that fight, I leaned toward, and I was going with Daniel Dubois, but I laid out reasons why Joe Joyce very well could win that fight. We tune in. We see a pretty damn good fight. Some back and forth. It's some mystery involved. It's some intrigue involved. And then we get later in the fight, and Joe Joyce hits him with that jab, or he steps in, he walks in to that jab, and then has the bad moment and takes a knee and gets counted out, and we have a knockout. Now, it wasn't the most exciting knockout, as jabs usually don't result in, the concussive, unconscious type of knockouts and whatnot. But I mean, we learned a lot in that fight, and it, like I said, it was a. I mean, if it wasn't 50-50, it was 55-45. I mean, it was a close fight. A lot of us were, on both sides of the fence on who was going to win that one. We still might be arguing who was winning the fight when it ended. It was that competitive. But a lot of times, these fights that I'm seeing in the States, when they make the announcement, you know who's going to win. I can write the article. I can write the fight up before the first bell. I can write the article before fight week. And I just need to know what round or what punch. Hell, sometimes I know what round, to be honest with you. So anyway, that's my knockout of the year. That's my dark horse or forgotten knockout of the year with Joe George and Marcos Escudero. You can find that Showtime has the Joe George and Escudero knockout. It's like a 1.5-minute video, less than 2 minutes. You can check that out to refresh your memory. I started to rip it and put it in the video and edit it up and make it all nice and shit, but I ain't got time for that. I'm taking Povetkin knocking out White as the knockout of the year, shaking things up. And then that's that. Anyway, man, bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Let me go in here and holler at my moms. Happy New Year to everybody, man. 2020, it's been real. But we move on to 2021 and our respective travels, and let's continue to get it in. Like I said, don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Appreciate somebody for that one like up there. Always makes my day. If you got one, that's a reason to continue on. Anyway, I'm out of here. Peace.